Hello everybody and welcome back to what's new in Apple Arcade in the month of September. And today we have 5 exciting titles to talk about and something at the end that you definitely want to keep your eyes peeled for. And for the first time in this channel's history, we get to say all the games that are being released in September are available on all Apple Arcade compatible devices. So that means the TV and Mac all have a version for the games that we're going to be talking about today, which is insane. Normally we have one that's just for the iPhone and iPad, but they have all been designed to play on all the devices, which is brilliant. So the first title to land on Apple Arcade is called Hanx101 Trivia, and it's interesting to get a trivia game. I've not seen one come on the Apple Arcade in a very long time. We don't get many quizzes game come up, so it's a nice addition. Now Hanx101 will have you travel across the country testing your knowledge on multiple categories which range from history, geography, food, maths. It's all in there to challenge your general knowledge. This game has a really nice simple colour palette which keeps it nice and easy to read, but it's also quite vibrant at the same time in the colours they've used. The art style has some very nice animations which keeps this question-based game quite entertaining and still good to look at the same time. One addition that I think is really cool is the map that you travel through is sort of a 3D perspective, which basically takes it away from an all 2D experience, which I think is a really nice combination for a quiz/trivia game. I think it's just nice to have nice visuals to go along with the questions. Whether you choose to play this solo or try one of the multiplayer modes, which is head-to-head or team competitive modes, is completely up to you. You can create the ultimate trivia showdown with your friends. It's a very good game. It's definitely something you should try and test your skills with because general knowledge is always good to have on hand. The only criticism that I've seen after launch is the main focus on America. Now the map that you travel through is very American themed and the trivia is very American based. You can't fault the developers for this. I don't actually mind it. I think it's interesting to see what I do know, but it doesn't hurt to challenge yourself every once in a while. But just note that this game does have a slight American theme to it. The next title to land on Apple Arcade is an original title which has actually been on consoles in the past but has now landed on Apple Arcade as a complete original. I'm not too sure if there's any plans in the future for this game to come out on Steam or consoles. It would be cool if it does stay as an Apple Arcade exclusive, bringing more fans to the service. Now Horizon Chase 2 is a retro-styled racing game which is fast and very visually presented. And if you know what it's based off, it is definitely very visually presented. I think this is a game that is needed on Apple Arcade just on the fact that I feel like the racing genre is lacking a little bit in comparison to some other genres on Apple Arcade. So this is a brilliant addition. It has a fully fledged World Tour mode with great progression, and with this progression you can upgrade your cars cosmetically or to change their power ratings, which gives a really good balance to the single player. The upgrades allow you to take that level on that you may have come 3rd or 4th in last time, take it on with your upgraded car and absolutely smash your record. Each level has a global leaderboard as well to see who the quickest in the world is, so an upgraded car is certainly something you're going to want in those latter stages of the game. Now, when it comes to challenging other players, you're not just stuck at the leaderboards. You can play a full-fledged multiplayer where you go around racing other people around the world to try and win. The cars seem very maxed out from this experience, which means you don't have to grind to get the best car to win. It seems a very well-leveled experience and just great to pick up to play with even strangers or your own friends. As I mentioned earlier, there's a few customizations that allow you to get the car to how you want to look it, from the paint job to the rims, and some of the models of cars actually allow you to take the roof off, so if you're a fan of convertibles, you can do that too. Now I do like this game. I think it's very good that they've kept the original style. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the retro racer from what I think was the 80s, where the car was a flat sprite on the screen and the corners just came up at you. If you've ever played one of these games, you'll know exactly where this game has been inspired from, and it is a nice look back at where video games have come from. The fact that we'd had, games that were maxing out with 8-bit sprites to being able to play beautiful games in your hand on the iPhone, which is, amazing for what is almost probably 60 years of gaming. I have created a playthrough on the channel already if you want to go check that out. The next game that's landing on Apple Arcade is called Garden Tales, and it's an interesting puzzle combination game. This style of game is no newbie to the iPhone and iPad, and social media sites have actually used this style of game before to entertain their users. And there's now a version on Apple Arcade which is called Garden Tales, and the idea is you try and score the maximum score and beat the level to restore all the gardens in the game. And there's a lot of collectibles to have as you go along. It's a game that if you are someone who likes to do 100% and collect everything and beat every score, this is definitely a game to try. Visually, it looks fresh. It looks like it will look really nice on those high-res screens, and also an Apple TV version. What I mentioned in my intro, I don't understand, but I like it. It's a very nice addition to have an Apple TV version, so you can just pick it up wherever you like. The game developers in the description market this as a challenging game but with a mindful aspect, which means there's no pressure from level timers. It's just about giving the player the best experience, and if they want to go for the highest score they can, and it's all about getting those combinations. But when you look at it, it is a simple puzzle game that you can enjoy. Also, don't forget to collect as many collectibles as you can. The next title coming to Apple Arcade is another retro title. This one will have you playing as a shovel knight trying to steal some loot. This is a puzzle platformer which will have you swinging, swiping, jumping and sliding through the levels to collect as many gems as possible. Now these gems are actually hidden in plain sight but are protected by well-timed jumps and puzzles, so there's going to be a ton of replayability for you to try and max out your score. Now this has controller support, but I've seen from the trailer and the gameplay that they've released that the touch controls look like they've been really thought through, and that is just something amazing because I feel like a game should be playable on any device with no advantages. And I'm going to be putting this game on my first tries list because it just looks, from mechanics wise, it looks very addictive and simple to play, and that's what I love about Apple Arcade, is the simple games that give you hours of fun. Now each level has been designed with unlimited replayability, and that is pretty standard with any puzzle game with collectibles. There's always a score and a time to beat, so I will definitely be playing Shovel Knight Dig on the channel as soon as I can, because I think this game is going to be awesome to just have a playthrough of, and definitely have a look at it because it's one of those games that really suits the iPhone style. And the final title today is a Plus title. It's Gris Plus, which is a story about a young girl who's lost in her own world. The game has a very unique art style, very drawn, illustrated world, drawn for you to feel the pain of this character, and that, I love the description. I think that's an amazing thing. It's not as dark as it sounds. There's an element of magic as her dress will grant her some abilities, and as you play through the story you will unlock new abilities and new powers. This title does tell a gripping story with eye-catching illustrations and set pieces, and tries to use barely any words to portray the story, and this allows the user just to get connected to the emotion. While I was writing this review for the video, someone came up behind me and said, "Wow, that video game looks really pretty." And you can't argue with that. I think that the whole game being almost drawn out of reds and blues is such a nice experience. It's unique. It was a bit like when we've had some of the other illustrated games come to Apple Arcade. They really do stand out as almost a piece of art and a video game. But that's it for September, but I do have some other news. There's a few games looming in the coming soon section, which to me are very big titles. Excitingly, we have two massive sport titles coming to Apple Arcade in the next coming months. Unlike Gear.Stradale, we're not going to be left looming when it's going to be. Apple have released these dates, and surprisingly, they're actually coming out with their counterpart products on the next gen's consoles on the same day. So if you want a experience, whether you're going to play the mainstream consoles or the Apple Arcade experience, it's really nice to see that the developers do think about the players of all of their experiences. Now, I've released a video about 2K23 on my channel. This isn't really a new title for Apple Arcade because, like any other sports game, they tend to be released year after year, and we've had three now, if you count this one, 3 versions of NBA on Apple Arcade. But it's nice to see that they're going to bring out the new teams, some new features, the graphics are obviously going to be better, and I really do like that this is a yearly thing and they don't just leave one game just there, because I think that there are sports fans that will come to Apple Arcade specifically for NBA. But for me, the next sports giant is coming in November, and that is Football Manager 23. And I feel like this game is going to bring so many new Apple Arcade subscribers because in my eyes, Football Manager is a AAA title. This game has been played by millions and millions for over the last 40 years, and I think this is definitely a game that will bring more people in, as it can be played by casuals, but also have that experience of someone who really wants to take on the Football Manager role. And if we're going to bring in any Apple reference here, you could be the Ted Lasso of the Apple Arcade experience. But thank you so much for tuning in today. I know this has been quite a long video and potentially the longest What's New video to the channel, but it's so exciting to see that Apple Arcade, even after what feels like 3 years of it being released, is still growing, and we're still getting exciting titles every month, and there's always seems to be now one every week, which is absolutely awesome. So thank you so much for watching, and we hope that you tune in to another video.